Somewhere above you, right now, the surface of the ocean is catching the last light of day, rippling gently, endlessly, the way it has, for longer than any of us can truly imagine. And just beneath that light, a world begins that most of us will spend our entire lives never truly seeing. Not because it is hidden from us on purpose, simply because it is far and dark and quiet, and it asks for nothing from us at all. Tonight, we are going to sink slowly into that world together. Not to rush through it, not to catalog it, but to drift downward, layer by layer, the way light itself fades the deeper you go, until there is no light left at all, only the quiet, patient shapes of creatures who have never needed it. You do not need to remember any of this. You do not need to follow closely. You can simply let your mind rest here in the dark, calm water and let the ocean carry you the rest of the way down. We begin near the surface in what oceanographers gently call the sunlit zone, the uppermost slice of the sea, reaching down to about 200 meters. This is the part of the ocean most familiar to us, the part warmed by sunlight, filled with drifting color, home to nearly all the marine life most people picture when they think of the sea. Here, light still moves freely through the water, scattering into soft blues and greens, and life responds to it the way it always has, plants and plankton turning that light into energy, small fish weaving through it in shifting silver schools. It is a gentle place, familiar, sunlit, alive in a way that still resembles our own world above the waves. But descend even a little further, past 200 meters, and something quietly begins to change. This is the twilight zone, sometimes called the mesopelagic, and here the light does not disappear all at once. It fades, slowly, gradually, the way dusk settles over a landscape, the blues growing deeper, dimmer, until color itself begins to lose meaning in the gathering dark. Sunlight can still reach this far, faintly, but it is no longer enough to sustain the kind of plant life that thrives above. And so the creatures living here have adapted, quietly, patiently, over millions of years, to a world of dimming light and rising shadow. This is where you might find a six-gill shark, an old and slow-moving predator, one of the most ancient shark lineages still swimming in our oceans today, gliding through the deepening blue with no particular hurry, as though it has always understood that time down here moves differently. It has 6 gill slits instead of the 5 most sharks carry. A small, quiet reminder that this is an older design, largely unchanged for tens of millions of years, drifting calmly through water that has always been its home. Deeper still, in the same twilight water, drifts the telescope octopus, a soft, translucent creature with tube-shaped eyes built to catch the last, faintest scraps of light filtering down from far above. It does not chase prey aggressively. It simply waits, drifts, watches, its entire body built around the patient act of noticing whatever small movement passes nearby in the gathering dim. And here, too, in this fading blue world, is where bioluminescence begins to bloom quietly, softly, like the first few stars appearing at dusk. Small flickers of cold, chemical light drift past in the darkness, produced by tiny organisms and delicate jellies, a gentle, wordless kind of conversation carried out entirely in soft, glowing pulses. It is easy, if you let yourself imagine it slowly, to picture this layer of ocean as something like a quiet twilight sky turned upside down, its stars drifting rather than fixed, blinking on and off in a rhythm no human eye was ever meant to fully understand. By the time you reach 1,000 meters, sunlight has vanished entirely. Not dimmed, not faded, gone. This is the midnight zone, the bathypelagic, a world of complete and permanent darkness that has existed, unbroken, for longer than there have been eyes on this planet to notice it at all. Down here, there is no day, there is no night. There is only an endless, patient stillness, cold and quiet, pressing in from every direction. And yet, even here, in absolute darkness, life continues, softly, steadily, the way it always has. This is the layer of ocean where you might find the drifting form of a siphonophore, a strange and delicate creature that is not, in truth, a single animal at all, but a long, softly glowing colony of smaller connected organisms, working together, drifting together, trailing through the black water like a slow, glimmering ribbon. Some of these creatures can stretch for many meters, gentle and near invisible, except for the faint bioluminescent light rippling quietly along their length, a soft signal passed from one part of the colony to another in a language made entirely of light. Somewhere near this same depth swims the giant oarfish, long, silver, ribbon-like, one of the longest bony fish in the entire ocean, moving with a slow, gentle undulation, as though its whole body were a single, unhurried wave. For centuries, sailors who occasionally glimpsed this creature near the surface, dying or disoriented, mistook it for sea serpents from old maritime legend. But down here, in its true home, there is nothing monstrous about it at all. It simply drifts, quiet and enormous, through water that has never asked it to be anything other than exactly what it is. And somewhere in this same deep, dark water lives the big-fin squid, a creature so rarely seen that for a long time almost nothing was known about it at all beyond a handful of blurry deep-sea camera recordings. It drifts with its long, thin arms trailing beneath it, sometimes for many meters, moving so slowly and so gently that it looks less like a hunter and more like something floating peacefully on a current. Only it can feel, patient in a way that feels in this darkness entirely natural. If you continue to sink even further, past 4,000 meters, you reach what oceanographers call the abyssal zone, a name borrowed from an old word meaning bottomless, because for so much of human history, no one had any real sense of what, if anything, existed beneath it. Down here, the ocean floor stretches out in a vast, quiet plain, covered in a soft layer of fine sediment that has been drifting downward, slowly, patiently for millions of years, made up of the tiny remains of countless small creatures that lived and died in the sunlit water high above, before finally settling here in the dark, undisturbed silence of the deep sea floor. This is where you might find the giant isopod, a calm, slow-moving relative of the small pill bugs you may remember from gardens above the surface, except here, in the cold and pressure of the abyss, it has grown far larger, moving with unhurried patience across the sediment, quietly cleaning the seafloor of whatever organic matter drifts down to meet it. There is something oddly peaceful about it, this patient creature moving slowly through the dark, entirely undisturbed by the enormous weight of water above it, entirely at home in a place that would seem to us unbearably heavy and still. Nearby, gently moving across the same soft sediment, are the sea cucumbers, soft-bodied and slow, quietly consuming the fine organic material that rains down endlessly from the world above. Patient custodians of the ocean floor, working without hurry, without complaint, the same slow task repeated gently across millions of years. And scattered here and there across this same vast plain are the ghost sharks, also known as chimeras, pale, softly glowing, strange and gentle relatives of true sharks, gliding slowly along the seafloor with quiet, wing-like fins, their large eyes built for a world where the faintest trace of light might mean the difference between finding food and finding nothing at all. They move without urgency, drifting through the dark plain like slow, pale ghosts, entirely undisturbed by how far they are from anything resembling the world above. Scattered across this same abyssal plain, rising unexpectedly from the flat seafloor, are seamounts, underwater mountains formed by ancient volcanic activity, some rising thousands of meters from the surrounding plain without ever quite reaching the surface above. These quiet, underwater peaks become gathering places, gentle oases in the vast, flat dark, where corals slowly build delicate structures across the rock, growing so slowly that a single coral colony here might be many hundreds, even thousands of years old, a patient, living monument built one impossibly small layer at a time. And in certain places along the seafloor, in locations where the Earth's crust splits and shifts, you find something that feels, even now, like one of the ocean's most quietly miraculous discoveries: hydrothermal vents, cracks in the seafloor where mineral-rich water, heated by the Earth's own inner warmth, rises up into the freezing deep in slow, drifting plumes. Life should not, by any of our old assumptions, exist around something like this. There's no sunlight here at all, none, and yet around these vents gather entire quiet communities of life, sustained not by light but by chemosynthesis, tiny microbes converting the chemicals in the vent water directly into energy, an entirely different way of being alive than almost anywhere else on Earth. Around these vents drift giant tube worms, tall and calm, without mouths, without stomachs, relying entirely on the quiet microbes living inside them to convert the vent's chemistry into life itself, standing together in tall, gentle clusters like a strange and peaceful garden grown entirely in the dark. Nearby, in the warmest water closest to the vents, live Pompeii worms, among the most heat-tolerant animals ever discovered, resting calmly against surfaces far warmer than anything most life on Earth could ever safely endure, patient and undisturbed by conditions that would be violent anywhere else in the ocean. If you sink further still, past 6,000 meters into the deepest and narrowest folds of the seafloor, you reach the hadal zone, the deepest layer of ocean that exists, found only within the planet's deep trenches, places so extreme, so specific, so limited across the entire globe, that only a small handful of them exist anywhere on Earth. Here, the pressure grows almost impossible to fully imagine, and yet, even in this final deepest layer, quiet life continues. Small, pale amphipods drift and gather here in soft, patient groups. Delicate snailfish, translucent and unhurried, hold the record for the deepest fish ever filmed alive, moving gently along the sediment and water so heavy it would crush almost anything not built, patiently, slowly, by millions of years of adaptation, specifically for this one quiet, extreme place. And above all of this, connecting every layer we have passed through tonight, drifts something quiet and constant, something oceanographers call marine snow. It is not really snow at all, but a slow, endless drift of tiny organic particles, falling gently from the sunlit water far above, down through the twilight, down through the midnight dark, down through the abyssal plain, all the way to the Hadal trenches below. A slow, patient rain that has never once stopped falling, connecting every layer of the ocean in one continuous, gentle cycle, feeding the deep with whatever the surface leaves behind. There is something worth resting on here at the end of this descent. Nothing in this world we have drifted through tonight was in any hurry. Not the six-gill shark, gliding slowly through fading light. Not the giant isopod, patiently working its way across the seafloor. Not the tube worms, standing quietly around their warm vent water, needing no sun at all. The deep sea does not rush. It has never needed to. It simply continues, quietly, gently in the dark, the way it always has, and the way it will long after we are gone. So let yourself rest here, for now, in that same slow, patient dark. Only the quiet, endless drift of marine snow, falling gently through layer after layer of calm, dark water, all the way down to a seafloor that has been waiting, patiently, peacefully, for longer than any of us can truly imagine. If this quiet corner of the ocean helped you rest tonight, consider subscribing so you can drift back down into these calm, deep waters again whenever you need to.